What's up everyone, this is Dariusz Kalbarczyk, co-founder of NG Poland, JS Poland, AI Poland and Angular Master.dev. Welcome back to the Angular Master podcast. Today we've got a special guest joining us all the way from Jaipur, India, consultant at Ernst & Young, passionate about front-end technologies and an advocate from Women in Tech. Ladies and gentlemen, Shubhangi Shukla. Hi Shubhangi, how it's going?
Hey Darius, it's going good. How about you?
Perfect, thank you so much. For those who don't know you yet, please tell us about yourself and what you do.
So, hi everyone. I am Shubhangi Shukla, a software engineer based in India. Mostly, I handle the full stack development of a web application, but I am enthusiast about the front-end technologies. So I love exploring and play around with different front-end frameworks and exploring about the intricacies of those frameworks.
Can you explain what hydration is in the context of Angular applications?
So hydration is something that is related to SSR or server-side rendering. And to have a better understanding of hydration, it is important for us to know how SSR actually works. So when a server sends the rendered HTML to the client, our client doesn't use that HTML directly. Instead, it destroys that HTML from server and it works on re-rendering it again. So hydration helps us in restoring that server-side rendered application on the client by reusing the server-rendered DOM structures.
Why is hydration important for the performance of Angular applications?
Hydration actually does magic to the performance of Angular applications that are using SSR. So with the hydration enabled, we are going to see faster loading times, and it also makes it easier for our web crawlers to access the content, and hence it improves the SEO also. And also, when we use hydration, user can see a better user experience as there will be no UI flickering.
How does enabling hydration in Angular affect core web vitals like FID, LCP, and CLS?
Oh, yeah, it's a good question. So, as I've already mentioned, that hydration prevents the re-rendering of the HTML that already exists on the server. So with hydration enabled, our client is basically trying to match the DOM elements with the application structure. So no extra work is being done in here, no work is being done recreating those DOM nodes. So with this, we are going to see faster FIDs and good LCPs. And our cumulative layout shift is also going to be 0. Because users are not going to see any kind of UI flicker due to fast loading of the application. So hence, the SEO is also going to improve and the code web vitals will be significantly reduced.
So what are the steps to enable hydration?
First of all, to use hydration, we need to have a SSR-based application. So to create a fresh SSR application, we can use our CLI and use the command ng-new --SSR. And in this case, hydration is going to be enabled by default. But if we decide to add the SSR in later stages, then we have to use ng at Angular SSR. And in this case, we need to import the provide client hydration in our main application component or the modules. And once we have imported that particular attribute, we need to add it into our providers array. Either the providers array of that application's bootstrapping provider list, or if someone is using ng module, then they can add it into their root app modules providers list.
How can you verify that hydration is enabled in your Angular application?
So for verifying it, we can always open developer tools and we are going to see a message in console like hydration has been enabled for these number of components or nodes. Or we are going to see these number of components and nodes are being hydrated.
Why is direct DOM manipulation a problem for hydration and how can it be mitigated?
This is a very good point that we need to keep in mind when we are using hydration. So basically, hydration or Angular expects a same DOM structure on both our client and server end. If there is any mismatch, then it is going to lead to hydration failure. And mismatch can happen if we are using direct DOM manipulation or we are using DOM APIs such as inner HTML or document, then it is going to make some changes in the structure of the code that might Angular doesn't understand on the server side and will lead to the hydration failure. Like overcome this issue, we should avoid using any direct DOM APIs and we should avoid direct DOM manipulation. And we should use the Angular APIs for the same. And also for that, we should maintain a valid HTML structure for our code. And for that, we can always use a syntax check. We can always use a HTML syntax validator.
How preserve white spaces affects the hydration process?
Preserve white spaces usually preserves our indentation or spaces in our code during the compile time. If we are keeping this property to true, then at the compile time, the server might not be able to understand all those spaces and it might not be able to understand that code structure. So that can lead to hydration errors. So that's why it is advised to keep the preserve white spaces to false. Once the hydration process is completed, it just clears the unclaimed DOM nodes on the client. And for this clearing process, they relies on a stable signal from that zone.js. So if we are using some custom or noob zone.js, so that might lead to some changes in the timing of that stable signal. Either it can happen too early or it can happen too late. So this can also hinder the hydration process. So that's why it is not supported yet.
What are some common errors related to hydration and how can they be avoided?
Most of the common errors that we face while using hydration is related to the DOM mismatch only. Like if there is any difference in the DOM structure of a client or server side, then hydration is going to throw DOM mismatch error. So I've already mentioned that to avoid it, we should not use the DOM APIs and we should use a valid HTML structure and we should use some syntax validators for like validating our syntax of the code. So this is one of the common error. And another error that people may face is that the hydration information is missing sometimes. So this usually happens when we are adding the hydration in later stages. In that case, the server configuration is manual. So we have to make sure that we are importing hydration in the server configuration files as well.
How can you skip hydration for specific components in Angular?
If we feel like these components are not adhering to the constraints of hydration, so ng skip hydration is a process for that. So we can use this particular attribute in that component tag, or like we can simply set ng skip hydration to true as host bind. And using this attribute basically means that component will not be hydrated and it is going to re-render itself.
How does Angular DevTools help in verifying and debugging hydration-related issues?
Angular DevTools will show you everything that is related to hydration. If you are facing some errors, then it is always going to tell you like what kind of error it is. And if it is a DOM mismatch error, then it is going to show you the particular component that is causing this error. And basically DevTools helps us in assisting in pinpointing the root cause of that mismatch. And also they are going to show the constraints that are related to hydration. Like usually developers are going to see those constraints in the DevTools. So they are aware of the things what they have they do not have to do in hydration. And for the verification of hydration, the dev tools are going to show the particular message about the number of components and nodes that have been hydrated.
What new features have been introduced related to hydration in Angular?
Yeah, so with launch of Angular version 18, we have come up with two important features. First one is related to the internationalization. So previously, the internationalization or this I18N library was not supported. But from version 18, we can use with I18 support attribute with our provide client hydration inside the array. So it is going to enable the internationalization for our application, and we can use it with hydration as well. And the second one is the event replay feature, which basically helps in the transitioning of server-side rendered application to client-side. So basically, if we understand, then what happens is as soon as the server sends the HTML, the user is going to see the application on the client. But at that time, that application is not fully interactive because the event listeners are not active until the hydration is completed. So that's why the Angular community has introduced this event replay feature, with which we can capture the events which are happening before the hydration, and we will be able to replay all those events once the hydration is completed. And for this, we have to use a with event replay attribute along with our provide client hydration inside the providers array. So these two are the new features that have been introduced in V18, and they are currently under developer preview.
Why did you choose Angular?
So that's an interesting question, because it is basically like this. To answer this question, I have to go back to my college days. So I was studying electronics and communication engineering. And in the first 2 years, we were taught with range of subjects. So at that time, I was introduced to coding. And after that, I started practicing some basic coding using C and C++. But, as I was figuring out my future path, I landed a job which required the knowledge of web development. So I started learning HTML, CSS, and then JavaScript, and eventually Angular. So this is how it started, and it was the first framework I chose in my web dev journey. So, and since then I'm using it.
What inspired you to pursue a career in IT, specifically in software engineering?
So as I have mentioned that I was studying the electronics and communication engineering, which is not related to IT. But at that time, I was introduced to programming, and I found that playing with circuits is interesting, but programming was something that excited me. So that's why I chose to pursue my career in this industry only.
Welcome to Angular Master Podcast by NG Poland. It's great to have you here. We are diving into real-world Angular tips and help you grow as a developer step by step. Subscribe to stay in the loop. Leave us a comment if you're enjoying the ride. And hey, we've got more for you. Check out the JavaScript Master Podcast and the AI Master Podcast. Let's learn and grow together. What challenges have you faced as a fresher in the IT industry, and how have you overcome them?
So for me, transitioning from a student to working professional was one of the biggest challenges. Because, when we learn the things, we just follow the instruction. But when we actually start implementing those learnings into real-time projects, then we start encountering some issues and challenges. So there has been times like I have spent my entire days stuck in one issue. And also, I was working remotely, so there was less team interaction. So I was not able to get through the code, what's going on. Obviously for the coding part, I just focused on my learning and hands-on practicing. And along with that, I engaged in some conversations with my senior colleagues whose experience has helped me in gaining some confidence.
How can companies create more inclusive environment for women in tech?
Oh, that's a good question, because if we see, then the ratio of women to men working in tech is not so good. So the first and foremost thing that companies can provide is to they should give equal opportunities for hiring, promotions, or any other leadership roles as men. And all these things should be free from bias based on the marital and parental status of a woman. And also, companies should focus on building diverse teams, because man and women often bring different perspectives and approaches to problem solving. So blend of their thinking skills can bring more innovative solutions. And also, companies should seek regular feedback from their female employees, and they should act on their suggestions to improve the work environment.
What advice would you give to young individuals, women aspiring to enter the field of software engineering?
Well, I would advise them to be patient with their journey, and they should just avoid themselves to compare. They should avoid comparing themselves to anyone, because there is a thing like imposter syndrome, which usually many freshers or many people in this industry faces. So everyone has their own journey. So we should just focus on our skills and our betterment. So this is something that young individuals should be aware right from the starting. And also, someone who is entering this field, they should understand that sticking to a particular technology or framework is not going to help, because this field is continuously evolving, and it is full of learning and adapting to new technologies as per the changing industry. What's popular in the market right now may not be after some years. So everyone needs to understand this, and especially the young people who are aspiring to enter in the field of this software engineering.
How do you approach learning new technologies or frameworks in this ever evolving field of software development?
In my approach, first I try to get a brief overview about that particular technology or framework. And then I just explore the existing applications that are built using that particular framework or are using that particular technology which I want to learn. And then I just pick up particular small part from that application and try to implement it on my own. So this way I get a better understanding of the features that are available in that particular framework or technology.
What are some of the lesser known but valuable skills that you think are crucial for success in tech?
Actually, this is a good question, because there are many lesser known skills that are crucial for our success in technology. I have heard from most of the people or most of the developers that I am good at coding, and I think that's enough. But I feel that's not enough. Though being good programmer or good at coding is an excellent thing, but we should also be able to communicate effectively. If you they should focus on communicating their needs or communicating about their project clearly. That is, I think, one thing to be to be successful in tech. And one more thing I feel that is important is personal branding. So you have also talked about it in NG India. So personal branding is also very crucial, because it helps other people to know what you actually do, what you actually work on. So they should also one should also focus on presenting themselves better in front of the community or in front of the particular tech industry.
How do you stay motivated during challenging projects?
During challenging projects, I often try to break my task into the smallest possible subtasks. And whenever that smallest subtask gets completed, it energizes me to take up the next set of challenges. And I always keep reminding myself the impact a particular project will make when it gets completed. And I also try to remain in constant touch with other team members so that we can share our blockers or we can share our success together, and that helps in lightening the mood.
What music do you listen to while working, if any?
I can listen to any music, it all depends on the mood with which I am working. I can work with super calming music and I can work with listening pop music. It all depends on my mood.
What's your favorite way to unwind after a busy day of coding?
After a busy day of coding, I prefer some no screen hours, like no screens at all. And I just sit on my terrace or in my garden and I just focus on the noises around me, be it of chirping birds or some traffic noises. That helps me in unwinding.
Shubhangi, thank you for joining my podcast. It was a real pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, I have an absolute wonderful time, and thanks for having me here. It was my pleasure as well.
Thank you so much.